Good afternoon, everyone. Caresoft Technology would like to welcome you to our Select Technologies webcast. How do you know it's time to archive your database? Before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. The audio portion of this webcast can be heard through your computer speakers, or if you prefer, you can use the dial-in displayed on the screen to your telephone. All lines have been muted to reduce any background noise. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the chat pod on the left side of your screen, and we will do our best to answer all of your questions at the end of the presentation. If for some reason we do not get to your questions, our team will certainly follow up with you offline. Just to tell you a little bit about Caresoft, we are a trusted government IT solutions provider delivering software and support solutions to federal, state, and local government agencies. Caresoft maintains dedicated teams to support sales and marketing for all of its vendors, including Solex Technologies, SAS, Adobe, VMware, Symantec, and Red Hat. Our contact information will be at the end of the presentation, so please do not hesitate to call or email us for any of your needs. This webcast is being recorded and a copy of the presentation will be emailed to you. Now at this time I would like to introduce our speakers for today. John Ottman, Executive Chairman, and Vijay Kumar Gudikal, Product Development Manager at Solex Technologies. Now I'd like to pass it over to John. The floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. My name is John Ottman. I'm Executive Chairman of Solex. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us here today. We'd like to talk about Solex EDMS ILM assessment, which for a data growth health check. EDMS stands for Enterprise Data Management System, and ILM stands for Information Lifecycle Management. What we want to talk about today is how do you know when it's time to archive your database? So let me just quickly give you a little bit of background about Solex Technologies in case you're not familiar. Our mission as a company is to organize enterprise data for optimizing infrastructure costs and also improving data security and business intelligence. The company was founded in 2002. We're headquartered in Santa Clara, California. Our main product is called the Solex Enterprise Data Management Suite. We call it Solex EDMS. We also have a Solex EDMS Standard Edition version, which is a free version that you are able to download right from our website for entry-level type of application use. And we're also part of the Oracle FlexCube Universal Banking System as an OEM component. I've been selected by Oracle Apps, one of our specialty areas. The solution is available on an appliance, which we call the Solex XX appliance, and we have over 150 customers throughout the world, including in the federal government space, as I recognize many of the people on the webinar today are from government. We're also supported by most and certainly many of the leading systems integrators out there, very familiar working with our products with joint customers. So that's a little bit about Solex. But let's talk about growing data and data growth and why it's such a big concern. This is a great little chart that I borrowed from EMC, and basically what it describes is one of these analogies of how big data growth is, growing by a factor of 44 over the next 10 years. I mean, you know, by 2020, you know, that small storage footprint you have is going to be 44 times bigger. And you know, why do we care? Because huge data in production instances means longer downtime during upgrades. For instance, if you're running an Oracle eBusiness or PeopleSoft Siebel system, something like this, and you're moving from one release to the next, one of the key requirements of that upgrade is to do a database migration and convert that data to the new application, which forces a significant outage, which can be days, and can significantly interrupt production applications. So, you know, huge data instances mean longer downtime during upgrades. Accelerating growth of enterprise data drives the need for additional storage solutions as well. Because remember, typical production application database may have anywhere from half a dozen to a dozen non-production instances associated with it. So when you're thinking of like how big is this database, don't just think about your production database. Think about all the non-production systems as well, because typically non-production data storage costs are 4 to 5 times bigger than production. Also, application performance degrades as data increases. It's simply the physics of computing. The more data you pump through a processor, the more work it's doing, the longer it's going to take, and system performance degrades from one end of a system in terms of online performance to the other end in terms of batch performance. So application performance improvement is one of the major reasons to want to manage data growth. But then finally, expanding infrastructure complexity increases operating costs in a big way as well. And we're talking about having to put more and more support into running bigger and bigger systems, and major suppliers such as Oracle are now recommending the Exadata architecture. SAP is recommending a similar architecture called HANA. These are super high performance compute environments, which are also extremely expensive, and they're designed to run production data. Obviously, the more production data you have to run, the bigger Exadata, HANA, high-end storage and compute processing you're going to need. So the idea is manage your production data down to the smallest possible footprint to improve performance, and also reduce the amount of non-production storage that's required to support that environment. Now, this chart's kind of an interesting chart because it talks about as database archiving becomes a solution to the data growth solution to the data growth problem. If you look at the red section of that chart, what you really see is data growing, and what's the impact as your database size grows. Obviously, it's pressure on IT resources. We talked about downtime. It also increases the compliance and risk concerns. You have more data, more types of data, which require improved governance, whatnot. So how many copies of data are we having in production and non-production, et cetera? It just keeps growing. And so if you look at the purple line, what typically organizations do is they increase capacity to manage more and more processing of more and more data. And as a result, the blue line on the top, the performance curve, it's sort of going up and down, up and down, up and down, waiting for the next upgrade. And as you can see, this is sort of a cycle to with no end in sight of expanding costs and complexity. So database archiving becomes a potential solution here. Now, some of the best practices for archiving, and one question is, well, where do we start? How do we understand archiving? What do we need to be prepared for? Well, first of all, understand your data growth trends and start with a data assessment, and that's what the tool is that we want to show you today. That's what it does. You need to think about setting a data retention policy that is tailored to each organization. How much data do you need to keep online in production versus in nearline storage? You need to be able to define business rules that will drive decisions on what data gets archived and what data doesn't. You have to be able to classify your data based on age, access controls, etc. Inactive data's got to be identified, or closed business transactions. You've got to be able to know what data can be archived, what data cannot. You relocate inactive data to the archive database is what you're essentially doing. A lot of people think that when you do an archive, the database, of course, it gets smaller, but where does the data go, and do end users still have access to the data? Well, a misconception is that it kind of goes away. It really doesn't. In an archiving scenario such as what we're describing here, data remains accessible to the end users at all times, universally accessible, We're just pulling it out of the production database to take pressure off that system. But access to that data is always maintained for compliance reasons, if nothing else, indefinitely. We want to keep this archive data then on a separate database instance. And we want to lay out success criteria for what this project would entail. And these are some of the things you need to think about when you're going into an archiving project. So what drives retention policies? Well, number one, data growth. Which tables are growing fastest? Where's the pressure in the application where archiving can come to relieve the data growth issue? What are the retention periods that you need to have your data in a production instance? Do you have legal and compliance requirements such as holds on certain files that you must maintain access for? Are there certain archive rules which your organization at the even business unit level may require? And what are the data access requirements for people to be able to gain visibility of archive data? So what ILM assessment determines is what data is growing the fastest and what data is eligible for archiving. So you can start to build an expectation as, am I going to be able to, if I do an archiving project, is it going to reduce my database 10%, 20%, 50, 60, 70%? How much impact will I get from an archiving project? It's really the place to start. So the Solix ILM assessment, or Information Lifecycle Management Assessment tool, does a great job at that. It takes data growth snapshots, identifies data that's eligible to be archived based on the retention policies that you've put in place or you've put into the tool. It gives you nice graphical output format, so you can think about heat map sort of approach to looking at where your top 10 tables are in terms of growth, top 10 tables in terms of size. These types of reports are available, detailed analytics at the row level and the table space level. And it projects how much storage can be saved by implementing an archiving strategy. So by running the archive assessment solution, you're able to really sort of project, is this going to be a 10% gain, a 60% gain, and you can extrapolate from there into what can be a very exciting analysis on return on investment for things like non-production storage. We absolutely think non-production storage reduction of up to 70% using also test data management technologies is quite possible in these types of products and solutions. So the benefit is improve application performance, reduce the maintenance cost of your whole application infrastructure, ensure compliance by cost-effectively retaining access to all of the data for search, discovery, and reporting, universal access, and minimize business outages by reducing maintenance windows and downtime. And I should also say it's not just availability in terms of systems being down. When production databases get too big, batch windows get under pressure because batch jobs start running longer than anticipated, which means online access gets impacted, and your availability metrics suffers as well. And just doing a backup or a large batch process can have a major impact on availability. And if you can reduce the amount of data that's being processed, you can most directly impact the performance result. So Solix eDMS Standard Edition features an ILM assessment solution. It's a free download from Solix. You go to solix.com, our website, and it's easy to use, wizard-driven. Also, the Standard Edition tools that you'll find there as well are free downloads for database archiving, data masking, and data validation as well. We offer forums and training webinars as well, which that information can be found at solix.com. And I think at this point I'm going to turn it over to Vijay and ask him to give a short demo, and probably 15 or minutes or so, and then I think we'll open it up for questions.
Hi, this is Vijay Gurikal. I'm working as a Solix Product Development Manager in Solix Technologies for the past 10 years. So currently we're seeing Solix Enterprise Data Management Suite Standard Edition login screen. Before that, I just want to make you notice you can download this Standard Edition tool in terms of EDMS home zip file from our website. Once you extract that one, you can see a EDMS home folder will be extracted. Once you open that one, you can just see two batch files. One is the start EDMS and the stop EDMS. If you run the stop EDMS, Standard Edition automatically opens up in the application server is running, and it opens up the IE window with the default browser with the login screen. Currently, we are in the login screen. I'm just using a default login with the admin. So, as John mentioned, we are offering 4 different features under Enterprise Data Management Suite Standard Edition. It's a data masking, data assessment, data validation, and database archiving. For today's demo, we are covering this data assessment feature. So we'll start with the data assessment wizard. So as you can see, mainly we are giving 3 different features under the data assessment process. One is the database size snapshot, which assesses the data distribution in schemas and the size of the database, and it gives you top n tables decided in the database. The second part, the second feature is the module level archive eligibility. So under one module, how many tables I want to, how many transactional tables are really involved in the archival process. So we can combine together and we can apply the criteria, we can apply the relations, and we can apply the criteria as well along with the retention policies, and we can run this process. So that way we can easily identify how much data is really eligible based on the retention policy and the archiving validation. The third part is the data growth forecast. The data growth forecast is giving a forecast of the database, a growth forecast of the database, which really tells how much data is going to increase for the next 5 years. And you can use this data growth forecast against a database or against a single table. There are some cases in some of the ERPs, only one table is growing very high, and what rate I want to see at what rate the table is really being increased data growth forecast. That also we can see. So currently we are in the first screen, so we can opt any of these. I'm just selecting the database size snapshot. So under this database size snapshot, we can see 2 different steps involved in it. One is the setup database connection, and the second step is the create database size snapshot assessment module. Just moving to the next screen. See here you can see that so far we have defined 5 different source and target databases. You can also create a new data source in order to verify, in order to create a new data source which you want to run the ILM assessment. I'm just opening one of the already registered database in the standard edition. Here you can see the name of the database and source and what is the machine name, what is the host name or the IP address we can see, and what type of database it is. So we are currently supporting the Oracle, SQL Server, and Sybase for this. And for ILM assessment, we are supporting only the Oracle database. And you can see the instance name and what database user I want to connect and what is the password and the port number. We can use the test connection from this point, and from there we can continue or we can try to create a new one. So this way we can register our own new database. So for this demo, I'm just going to use one of already created existing database. So I'm just using one of the data source which is on this available on the 10.152.251 database, and the assessment type is database snapshot. Here you can see three different options, and I want to see like what is the size of my database and what is the schema-wise size distribution and top n tables in this. So you can run this one, like either you can save this and run later, or you can save and run this option. I'm just save and running this option, since like for every run in the EDMS, it generates a new ID, a new run ID. So once you click on this run ID, you can see that status in the status monitor. We have created demo 1 object name, and this is still in process. And you can see the activities data assessment and the start date and end date of this one. So the basic thing, so we have already executed a couple of assessments. I can just show you the preview of the already executed one. So here is the output we are seeing when we run a basic assessment against a database. So you can see on the set what is the run ID, what is the module name, when it is executed, and what is the database name, and the size of the database is 61.9 GB. And the left-hand side, you can see the data distribution among different schemas. Like by seeing this, like Apple Sys is occupying 29.2% and Sys is occupying 24%. Here we are showing only the top 15 schemas in the graph. On the right-hand side, you can see the list of schema names and how much space it is really occupied, and you can see all the list list of schemas, all the available schemas in the database and size of each and every one. This is the we are seeing the database size, and we are seeing the schema-wise distribution, and also we are seeing the schema-wise distribution of all the tables, of all schemas available under the database. And the bottom side, you can see the top tables. That we have selected 10 tables. Then you can see like what is my top table. This is and what is the size of this one. And you can see the size of the top 10 tables. And you can see the names of individual top tables and size of them. So this way we can see like what is my database size snapshot. And we do have an option of exporting this output to a PDF just by clicking this PDF icon on the right side, on the right corner of this window. It automatically it asks us to you want to open this the PDF file in the Adobe Reader. Like you can see, like this is the one generated by the Solix CDMS SC. The run ID and the module name and when it was created and the database name and database size on the first page. From the second page, you can see a graph like data distribution among different schemas. And the third page onwards, you can see the list of schemas and the sizes occupied on it. Here you can see like all the schemas available out of 192 schemas. You can see on the size of this total schemas. Along with this, and we are also showing the top 10 tables available in the database. You can see the list of tables, and from here, like you can also see the list of each list of the top 10 tables and their sizes as well. This way, we can distribute this data to the different teams, and so that we can have a like idea of what is the size of the database and how much it is growing, and what are all the top modules which I need to consider for archival purpose, and what are all the top tables which I need to consider for the archiving purpose. So this way we can easily we can easily identify the top schemas and top tables considered to be archived. So this is the like data growth snapshot which we have executed previously, and we do have like under the database growth, we do have like I have executed one of the tables previously since it is taking some time. So you can see the current one is like data growth analysis against a table, like CSCAP audit-A is my table, which is growing like anything. So that you can see the database size in AB. So how much, like by considering this table size is increased by 60% for next 5 years. Like that kind of data growth I can see from from yearly, like in the year 2010, I can see the 90%, 90 MB, and 2011 it is 217 MB. That way, by calculating this one till 2013, you can see 617. From 2014, 15, 16, 17, and 18 will be calculated based on the size of the data was grown earlier in the previous version. So that way, at least we can see the size of data growing against one table. This really helps in terms of like when we're going to run this run assessment against a particular table, which is occupying most of my database size. So this way, we are giving an option to user to run assessment against a single table to identify the data growth. And the third option is like we do have this is a data growth analysis. This is an assessment analysis for against a particular module. So we can run a database assessment against a particular module by registering them, all the tables involved in that a module. Like in the current GL module, I have 4 different tables involved in it, and those tables, like you can see the total rows, selected rows, total size, and selected size. So this way, with the kind of validations which we are defining under the module, we can also I'll also walk you through on this by defining a 2 tables configuration. On the left-hand side, you can see like active rows versus inactive rows. On the right-hand side, it is the active data size versus inactive data size. So out of this, like you can see, the active rows are 80% and inactive rows are 19.5%. This is based on the retention policy which we defined on this module. And like you can see a pie chart in terms of rows as well as the database size, data size as well. So this way we are giving an information against a module so that user can easily, like if I want to go ahead with archival, I'm going to gain 20% of these 4 tables, so that way 124.2 MB I'm going to gain out of 486 MB. You can, on the right hand side lower corner, you can see the data, active data size and inactive data size, and active rows and inactive rows. So this report we are giving against a module. So this way we can run this before archival, and we can will get to know like how much data is going to be eligible based on this business criteria and the retention policies, so that we can go ahead and run a module, run the archive process against that module. Here also we have a beautiful option of exporting the PDF, exporting the output to the different PDF, so that we can circulate the same report to the different teams. So before, when I'll just walk you through the assessment wizard for the module level archive eligibility. When I select the module level archive, you can see 5 different steps involved in it, from the database connection to assign data, retention policy, and run. So I'm just making use of the existing database connection. So what is my data source? I just want to use one of the data source, and assessment type I'm just going to use I'm going to create a new object. So you can see the table owners, which is pulled from the metadata against this data source. And once I select a table owner, which is a schema, and from here you can see the list of tables is available under that table owner. And you want to make it as a driving table and just add. So this way is more, the test is already exist. So here you can see that one table is added, and similarly we can add multiple tables to the list. Like just by just selecting the tables from the drop down and add. You can see two different tables is already registered under this module, and I'm just moving to the next step. So in the next step, the relations and joins. So what is my table and what is the parent table for this one? And just add. So that will be added to the list. And once you create a join relation, you'll have to join those tables with the columns available under the tables. Like just add it. You can add multiple joins in case of composite primary key. So this way we can register the tables, and we can register the relations and joins between those tables. And moving to the next step, then under the next step, like we need to create a criteria on basically the business policies. The business policies could be considering the validations in terms of putting a date value to what date we want to archive, and also closed transactions, what type of transaction you want to use, is considered a particular table, a particular column value should be closed, the status should be closed. So that kind of criteria we can add. We can add multiple criteria here, and we are supporting all types of operators. And since we are using the date as our criteria, I'm just providing a format, a universal format, so that everyone can make use of that one. And we can also provide a default value in case if user wants to override at runtime, we can override this one. I just provided 31st December 2001, which is maintaining the same data for value format and adding it. So this way we can add multiple criteria. I have added one criteria. I can add n number of criteria on it. And the next step would be the policy. In case the policy can be a retention policy. Even though we have provided a date column till date, if user wants to retain the 3 years data on the source itself, he can use a policy of he can create a policy, and he can apply that policy to the column which he wants to apply. Like you can see the default effective date, only you can see the date columns on the right hand side. You can just add here. So this way we have created an entire module, the module name and which source I want to connect and execute it, and the tables involved in it, relations and joins, criteria, and the retention policy. If I want to run, I can run this one, and I can save this, and I can run this later as well. So I'm just save and run. Since we have already seen the output of one of the GL module. So here you can see this is the runtime parameters. If user wants to increase, he can increase the value. If user wants to input some other value, he can input that one. When you press continue, it also generates a different run ID. Again, see the test 1, 2, 3 is my object name, and the status is in process, the data assessment, and it's the start date and date. Since we consider only 2 tables, it may complete quickly, but when it comes to the real modules, the number of tables involved and the complex business rules and the retention policies applying on it, it may take a bit longer time compared to this one. And so it may take some time. Till then, we do have a dashboard. So this dashboard really tells a kind of information that database size snapshots run against this source. The recent one, like you can see, how the data is distributed. In case the sys schemas or the system schemas, I don't want to see this Apple sys and sys schemas. I can apply a filter on it. I want to exclude Apple sys and sys schemas here. So that way you can see HR is my next biggest schema. You can see the different graph and different output here. So we can filter, we can exclude particular schemas in case if you don't want to. And the next one is the data growth forecast, which we are showing for the database size which we have considered. considered for the assessment purpose. So the next 5 years will be 8%. This way, you can see that today the database size is 61.9 GB. And 2015, 16, 17, it will be like with 8% growth. You can see by 2018, you can see the 90.96 as the database. Since it's a small database, we are not seeing much growth on this database. And the next one is the module level archive eligibility assessment statistics. We're showing only recent 10 statistics. Left-hand side, again, the active rows and inactive rows. On the right-hand side, active data and inactive data. So this way, when you can see the GL module, inactive data is 248.4 MB and active is 973. So the same GL which I ran sometime back after archival, here you can see, I ran a GL before archival, which is inactive data is 248.4 MB. So I ran a assessment again after the archival process. So here you can see a different statistic. That size has been reduced from 122.1.99 to 610.99. So this way, at least we can clearly see the difference. We can clearly show the difference to the end user. What kind of recent modules statistics, assessment statistics which we executed. And you can also see that individual run IDs, the recent 10 run IDs, module names and creation date and active rows and inactive rows, active data size and inactive data size. So this way we can give a full, a kind of decent information against the database, against a single table or against a module using this data assessment tool. Once we assess how much data is really is eligible for archive purge, the user can register the conflicts in the same EDMSSC to archive purge process. So this way we have covered most of the parts. And before concluding, I just want to make sure how the data assessment policies can be created. See here you can see I created a retention date policy on a policy owner is order management or something, and policy period is 2 years. And what you want to maintain, years, weeks, months, days, you can prefer that one. So that way we can provide a policies, and we can prepare multiple policies. For the financial data, I want to retain 10 years of data. For the manufacturer, I want to retain only 3 years of data. For the other purposes, for the procurement, I want to retain 5 years of data. So that way we can create multiple retention policies, and we can apply those retention policies against the data assessment modules. So that way we have completed the data assessment feature. So I'm just giving back control back to the host.
Yes, we had a few questions come in already. And the first one is, what kind of reports come with the solution?
As we have seen in the demo, we are showing 3 different types of reports. One is the database size snapshot. Under the database snapshot, we are showing the top n tables list and the size of those tables, and also the data distribution among different databases and size of each schema under that database. And the data growth size, table-wise data growth against each year, and what will be the growth for the next 5 years also we can see. Under this module level data eligibility for archival, the table-wise details eligible for archival and active data and inactive database size, and size of the data is eligible for archival as well. So these reports we are offering in terms of ILM assessment.
Right. There's pretty significant granularity in terms of the different reports that are available. I mean, at the end of the day, what you really want to know when you're engaging on a data growth project is how much of this database is eligible to be archived. 10%, 20, 60, 70%, because that information is going to be critical to you in terms of driving the economics of your entire project, especially if there's larger projects attached to it or driving it, such as an application upgrade. Because with that information, if you know that you can reduce your top 10 tables by 60%, you can start to calculate percentage cost reductions, performance improvements that you might be able to expect from an archiving project.
Great. And the next question we have is, what databases do you support?
Today, first release of the ILM assessment, we're supporting the Oracle database only, but we will be rolling that out very soon to other major platforms. The Solix CDMS overall runs on, I think, pretty much all database platforms.
Awesome. And another question is, what sort of applications does this assessment tool work with, and does it work with all?
Well, the assessment tool can work with any database schema. We also have modules available to focus in on special applications such as Oracle eBusiness, Siebel, and there's additional reporting that's available in the enterprise version for those. But this is essentially a tool that works on any structured database in Oracle today, and soon Microsoft SQL Server and Sybase as well.
All right, and I think that is all the questions we have. So at this time, I would thank all of our participants as well as John and VJ for being with us today. We hope our webcast has been helpful for you and your organization. If you have any further questions or would like to request more information, please feel free to contact Christina Shahadi at Carahsoft. Her contact information is displayed on your screen, so please don't hesitate to call or email her. Thank you and have a great day.